Ishmial, Blackshear Bay.
Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
My God,
and my salvation.
and my
By
salvation.
night
by night
and by day.
and
By
by day.
day.
Through His holy prophet,
Through His holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
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 I'm excited to be here
Please
today.
remain standing for the reading of the laws.
I'm excited.
Oh, well, without a doubt. Excitement is here. I'm glad. Glad.
Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and a partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey their father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, Chicago, Illinois, U.S.8. Islam?
Islam.
Islam. Yeah, upside down.
We want to welcome everybody to the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'm glad that y'all was able to come out, and we want to, if anybody have any particular questions that they have before we get started, it's fine, because a lot of questions just come up as we go. And this is a class, it is not basically a sermon of any type. So if you have a question, the class can lean towards the way that the question is going, or whatever statement somebody will make, because it's not required for us to get a certain amount done. So what we want to get done is that everybody gets something out of the class that's going to be helpful. So is there any particular questions before we get started? Anyone? Islam? I'm going to have a reading from the Moorish Literatures book that we have out. You can buy a copy of the Moorish Literature, just like you can buy any of the other books that we read from. It said, Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. This statement. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at the work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Jew Ali.
Islam. Any thoughts about that? I got a lot of thoughts about that.
Right.
A whole lot of thoughts about that.
This is being written by the prophet during the time this was going on when he was coming out. So you're looking at what, 1920, somewhere up in there, where he's making these writings. And he's saying that the people are taking their cards and they showing the card, they flashing them out like, wow, you know, I'm Moorish American, I ain't for none of that. You know, and it's causing confusion because a lot of people don't know what to do with the fact that you have a nationality that stipulates that international laws must apply. Treaty law must apply. So you can't just talk to me or treat me any kind of way because by law, I'm protected by the Constitution. And this is showing you that. So he said, y'all got to stop doing that because at that time, a lot of people were downtrodden. Like you have a lot of people now, they are downtrodden. And a lot of people, well, I'm black and they're going to take advantage of me. They're going to do what they can. So if you get a leg up, you want to flex. So a lot of brothers, we had the same problem with now. They get their car and they get their car. You got, you know, get a little cocky with the police officer or with the people at different establishments because you know your rights and you ain't trying to relinquish nothing because you don't took too much. So we get a little carried away sometimes. So the prophet was coming to say that you got to stop doing that and you gotta do the right thing. You know, just be peaceful. Because we for love, not destruction. We don't want to start no battles, no wars, and nothing like that. We just want to bring about peace by informing people as to who we are and who they are in relation to us. So, Islam.
And another thing that I want to point out is not only does it cause confusion by us flashing them for people who don't know, what about those of us who flash them and we don't actually know? There's a whole lot of that going on out there today and every day. Islam. And so that kind of brings me to what, going from last week, and last week we talked about the workshop of the mind, which that's one of my favorite ones because, you know, we need to keep it inside the circle, square it, stand on those 5 principles. And if you stand on those 5 principles and live through those 5 principles in order, then ultimately, if justice has to take its course, justice will take its course. And we don't have to be concerned about that. How do we get there? Structure. Structure. Gotta have structure. So today, what we're going to talk about is structure in a sense. You know, one of the things about words that we use is, well, the word structure, it only means this. But what do words actually mean? When I think about structure from a scientific point of view, I think about, oh, the human body, because I'm a nurse practitioner and a psychologist. So, okay, the structure of the mind. We're going to go all the way back to what's in the cell. We're going to talk about DNA. We're going to talk about nuclei. But if I was an engineer, I'd be like, okay, well, how do I build this? So what are the lines? What are the measurements? So structure can mean a whole lot of things. For today, and we discussed this yesterday, structure is going to mean unity. So how do we unify not just all of us, but all of us, so that we're thinking correctly? Does anybody have their prior questions? Because structure also points towards lineage. How do we get to where we are? Because it's the divine lineage that we're talking about as members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So how do we get there? How do we talk about it? How do we prove it? And if we go to, let's see, if we go to page 2, I want y'all to help me because, you know, I start calling out names if don't nobody join in. So on page 2, question number 24 says, who was Jesus?
He was a prophet of Allah.
Right, he was a prophet of Allah. Where was he born?
In Bethlehem, in
Islam. Can we get some energy here?
I'm sending y'all vibes, sending out energy. Okay, let's try that
You sound
again.
like y'all at Davis Betsy on the
Let's try this again. Who was Jesus?
He was a prophet of Allah.
Where was he born?
In Bethlehem, Judea, in the house of David.
Who were his father and mother?
Joseph and Mary.
Will you give me, in brief, the line or genealogy through which Jesus came?
Some of the great fathers which
Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary.
Why did Allah send Jesus to this earth?
Save the Israelites from the iron hand of oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe,
who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time,
How long has that been?
about 2,000 years ago.
What was the nationality of Ruth?
Ruth was a Moabitess.
What is the modern name for Moabites?
Moroccans,
Where is the Moroccan Empire?
northwest of
Northwest
Mexico,
What is the modern name for Mexim?
Africa.
What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco?
Sultan
Where do we get the name Jesus?
from the east.
What does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes,
But it cannot be used by those who are
slaves to sin.
Islam?
Allah.
So we just talked about how we get to where we are, because if we go back to the Acts, who are we? Descendants from the ancient Moabites. So that gives us our structure, our basic building principle, our foundation. Just like the cell has a nucleus, if you draw a point to start a line, all those things are a foundation, the foundation of us, the unity of us.
Islam. Oh, go ahead, sister in the back.
I had a question. I don't know, I think there was some, how was the name of Jesus? Who could use the name of that?
Question 37.
Okay, and then what was the answer?
The question is, did the angels, what she asked was there, about question 37, did the angels give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name? The answer is yes, but it cannot be used by those who are a slave to sin. Meaning that once we're free and we actually know and accept the truth, then we're no longer a slave to sin. And there's a lot of truths out there that people fight against. Islam?
Thank you, guys.
And when the sister is speaking about order, there's order to everything because the law made things in order. So there's no confusion in it. We bring about confusion by sinning and by evil acts, things of that nature brings about the sin. It causes the confusion. So when the brother, when we reading it, it's saying that what is a prophet, and it's a thought of a law. When we saying those things, we saying that each of these prophets came, but they all came from one master. They came from Allah. So even though you have different prophets that have different names, it's still only one thought. So a prophet is a thought of Allah. So it doesn't matter what name that they take. So it's still in order no matter where it's at on the planet. If it's a prophet, then he can only have that same thought as the other one had. And that's what you have to do. That's what we have to do. We have to put ourselves in that same thought so that the structure can be maintained. So our prophet is Noble Drew Ali. They came to us speaking English so that we can understand English. He came from among our people being persecuted as if we are being persecuted. So the order of that would be that now we have a father. We look at the prophet as a father. So now we have a father. Well, if I was Buddhist, then I would be looking to Buddha. You know what I'm saying? If I was in China, Confucius, so it would be like a father to all of the people, because that would be the one that came with the religion and straighten them out. But if you was in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, then you would say that it's Muhammad. And Muhammad is the father of the religion there. And Islam, everybody understand what I'm saying? So that's why it's order in that. You know, if you don't, you can just say it because that's what we're doing. We're trying to get comprehension, and there's no need to leave out without comprehension of what we're talking about. Or if you have a question that's other than what we're talking about. What we're here to do is to bring about clarity as to who we are. You know what I'm saying? You can have earthly salvation and you can have divine salvation. We're here to provide you with both. And a lot of ones you won't get that. So that's what she's talking about, order. What is it that you're supposed to have? Are we saying it as you're a Christian, you can't get salvation? We didn't say that. We're saying you can get spiritual salvation, but you will not get earthly salvation as a Christian. It's not built for you. It wasn't built for you. Christianity was built for Europeans. It was created for Europeans so that they can have an earthly salvation because they had no way to guide themselves. It was all over the place. So structure is imperative, or the prophet would not have brought us the structure to guide us through. So that's why the sister is saying structure. But if you don't get it, or if you got a couple of questions, feel free to ask those questions because they're going to lead us all in the direction of clarity. Islam?
Islam. And the brother said something that's very important. He said that Noble Drew Ali came to us speaking our language, the English language. It goes even deeper than that for me when I think about it, because there's a lot of people that speak the English language, but coming from amongst the people, speaking the exact same language as the people goes even deeper than that.
Right,
because that is the dialect, it's the emotion behind what's being said, it's that feeling, it's that pressure, it's that energy that's generated by those people that you're speaking to, because you are one of those people.
Right. You can relax. When you see somebody speaking your dialect,
like, okay,
you can relax a little bit, but you have somebody speaking different dialect than you kind of on your pen, you kind of trying to make sure you don't miss nothing or misunderstand something, particularly when you're talking about your money or something like that. You're like, hold on, back up, wait a minute. Say that again. Right, okay. Hey. Brother.
Somehow the 26 always coming up.
Yeah.
So today's lesson is actually when I thought about this and what structure meant and all those different things and all the different structure within my life and within me, the person, how I need to pray and I need to meditate. How we have to think about what we're saying to have reciprocal conversation so that the receiver is hearing what I'm actually saying, and that what their response is, I'm actually paying attention for a response, looking for a response. That's why when I talk, I like to have people dialogue with me, because if it's just a blank stare, I have no idea what you're thinking, and I have no idea if you even know what I said. I know you heard the words, at least I think you heard the words, but I have no idea what it means. So, is there anyone, do we have any extra crayons? We got 2 up here. Probably share. I'll share with you.
Okay, that'd be.
Does anybody need one?
We do. We go there. Anybody else got one?
Islam, if you like sitting here, by yourself, you have one, and right next to somebody that may have one. No,
I think that's the, I don't know if they're, yeah, it's not.
I know that conversation that we had, like speaking about and then being able to relate to, is it correct if I said the prophet? Okay, being able to relate to the prophet, so you can understand, the language and identify with. Is it felt in general that now there are more people that speak the language for others, or how is that seen? Because I see that there's a lot of respect for diversity of different ways of
Living.
Different ways of living. If you can call it worshiping or getting to the same place of God, things like that. There's a respect that you guys have for that, and I just want to know if it's seen as who else speaks this language? How is that viewed? So we can all understand present day.
We can all understand present day. That kind of goes back to what the brother was saying. We can understand present day, but a lot of these things that are written mirror present day. And that's what's so incredible. And I share my story a lot of times because I didn't come in receptive. I came in blocking. Like every aura of my being was a block. And then to hear these words that were written so long ago that are saying the same thing in the same language, like there might be some slang in there and it's not different. And it's like, wait a minute. Not only was the prophet speaking the language that I understood then, but still the language that I understand now, which was really, really bizarre. But that was one of the draws for me. A lot of times, and we talk about so many different things because it is the Moorish Science Temple of America. We talk about science, we talk about nationality, we talk about laws, but there's also that spiritual element. And that was the thing that I definitely knew I needed, but that was the thing that I definitely didn't expect to get. Like I was determined, it wasn't gonna happen. Blocking all the way. I grew up, I was like all crossed up. If I could have crossed my eyes probably would have been crossed. But
Go zipped up to her nose.
But I know it was all zipped up. He says it was July, it wasn't. But the thing is,
inside the Kobe was.
You know what?
Carry on, sister.
Distraction.
Right.
But the thing is, we are taught to be more tolerant, but if you're not tolerant, how can you love? Which goes to, and this is actually a perfect segue because the first thing that I'm actually about to read explains why we have to have that love and why we have to have that tolerance. Despite the fact that something might make me mad, I still need to have that love. Elihu's Lessons, the Unity of Life, it's chapter 3, I, in the Circle 7 Quran. And it starts out, again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, "No man live unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing." How can you not love if you know that you're bound to everything? You have no choice. It's easy to be angry. We need to project the love that we want to see in the world in order to see the love that we want to see in the world.
Islam. When she was speaking about the language, so to speak, how can the language 100 years ago be the same language as today? The struggle has not changed for the people because the injustice remains. So the struggle remains the same. If you left today and you went to somewhere in a urban situation, so to speak, in California or San Antonio or anywhere else, it would only take you a day or two before you'll pick up what slang means what. You know what I mean? It don't take you very long because it's following the same pattern. So it's easy for our brains to pick it up. So when the things that was happening when the prophet was coming up, the people were living through are the same things that we're living through now, and we're responding to them the same way. And he came and said, you don't respond like that. You respond with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And she said that all things are bound by cords. All things are bound by cords. So we are bound to 1920 by cords through all of us with the same thought patterns that we had in 1920. Was I in 1920? No, but the thought was, and I have it today. And it was continuous all the way through. We got to get out of the physical self and move to our higher self. which will allow us to span over time without hindrance. But if you try to use your body to solve the issue, which is how you've been colonized to think, you try to use your body, how can I work myself out of this issue? You can't work yourself out of it. You have to think yourself through it first. So it's necessary to move to your higher self. And some of us, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then ask the question, hey, what is the higher self? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And then the sister can elaborate a little bit, and we can get you on point. Because she made a statement. She said a question and an answer. And then she used the terms prayer and meditation. Is everybody aware what the connection is between prayer and meditation? Islam, brother over here.
Islam. Meditation and prayer, basically the art of breathing. And when you meditate, and I guess it go with manifestation too, because everything got to be positive along with what you were saying.
Right.
Islam.
It went a little deeper.
So
it went a little deeper than the top.
Just in case you didn't hear the conversation that was going on over here, because it was good, he not only talked about meditation, but he brought up manifestation. So the connection between the three, as I understand it, we pray, we talk to Allah. We meditate, we breathe, and internally listen for that still, quiet voice. And then those things that are in that discussion manifest. Is that what you said, brother?
Yes, you said that, Moses. Yes, that because everything has to be positive from the thought. So now when it comes to action, then when you get it, you'll be able to.
Islam.
You have to have speech. You have to have that all in there order for you to get to where you want to go. You can manifestation with energy that can mess things up too.
Right. So the prayer is you talking to Allah. The meditation is when you hear Allah. So if you don't meditate, you've been asking for something, and Allah has been giving it to you, but you just ain't listening because you don't meditate. You have to meditate, slow your breathing down, take your time. We can get some pointers. You see this brother right here, the Assistant Grand Governor Salih Nuruddin Bey right here. You can ask him about meditating. You can ask any of the other brothers about meditating. They're going to tell you you have to meditate so that you can breathe that in. So we got a question from the brother here.
I just wanted to say something on the topic of meditation. It was something, as we study, we learn more. Meditation can be done at any point in time. At any point in time. And the brother was right on the money with the fact that breathing is an integral part of meditation. So in the car at the stoplight, you focus on the breath. You breathe in, you breathe out. That is meditation. And then that is the process of beginning of you connecting with your higher self. And so, a lot of us have the orientation of sitting, being still, and meditating and going through the breathing exercises has the maximum amount of benefit. But I just want everybody to know, in the morning, brushing your teeth, like I said, at the stoplight, at work, on your lunch break, whenever, wherever, becoming conscious of your breath is meditation. It connects you to your higher self. And at that moment where you about to snap, or you about to go off, or you're sad or whatever, in that moment, let that breath out. And then all of a sudden, that peace you needed, that answer you've been looking for comes.
So I keep hearing this word, this concept, this higher self concept. So nobody's asking about what it is, and most of us or all of us might know. However, it comes up again. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. So that love that you want to see in the world, be that love. Don't demand it in return. Don't give out that love simply because, oh, I want you to love me back. Give out that love because there's nothing else to do, because love is everything. They will not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. And here's the biggie. There are two selves, S-E-L-F-S, not selves, selves. There are two selves, the higher self and the lower self. The higher self is a human spirit clothed with a soul made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh.
We'll read that again.
The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. Thoughts?
Any questions, any thoughts on that? So
That's explaining heaven and hell.
That's explaining the person. So you got your higher self, your lower self, and within that, because I see where you're going, brother, within that, it is your own personal heaven and hell. Although at the time, your own personal hell might seem like heaven to you.
And then that's when you're blinded by the oppressive way of life.
Islam.
so
Islam.
no, go ahead, sister in the back.
And speaking of the higher self,
Mhm.
is that in relation, or what are your thoughts? Is that in relation to a higher self in connection with what the words I'll use is connected with being in tune with the Holy Spirit?
Well, it said, read again with the higher self. It'll tell you.
It does. And it's interesting that you
Right.
use the word spirit.
Right.
The higher self is human spirit, clothed in soul, made in the form of Allah.
Okay,
So-
so the human spirit is clothed. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you see it with a soul. So that's how you know that the spirit is alive and it's going. So there's no way to do for your body to do this right here. It got to be animated.
Don't do that.
It needs some animation. So without the spirit inside of it, it cannot be animated. It's useless. The body doesn't have any other purpose other than to wait to be moved by you. And so the only thing that can give it any animation, any kind of way to move, is the spirit. So the spirit is not the body, and the spirit is not the soul. Now these are some things that have been taught to us that are in error, right? So we can talk to any preacher, any Catholic priest, we can talk to any imam, and anybody else we want to talk to. And we can show you clearly that you have a spirit, you have a soul, and you have a body. And two of those things were created. And one of those things will always be. Who want to guess what the thing is always going to be? What is that? The spirit. Right. We all know that. So how do we say, well, your soul is going to hell? But wait a minute. Well, it's doomed. It was created, so it's going to have to die. Right? So your body is going to die. Then what's going to happen? It's going to cease to exist. Do that mean you cease to exist?
Islam, no, sir.
No. Islam. So
Islam.
go ahead.
I don't know if I was at class when you spoke on this, so you aren't too when Allah, we pass and whatnot. You know, spirit, your spirit be with Allah, but what if you weren't in someone? So do you believe in form of like a reincarnation, or you just kind of 12, or what is it?
Well, the concept of reincarnation is one that causes most of us problems because we think in a kind of in a linear thought. But once you accept that you are a spirit, that your body is not, it's gonna die and life keep going. So my body gonna fall off. I'm steady moving. It ain't gonna stop me at all. It ain't gonna stop you at all. You're gonna continue on living. The body is just dying. You're gonna keep living. So your spirit is how would I say it?
Energy always exists. So what I get, and correct me if I'm not understanding your question correctly. So what happens to the person who they weren't in tune? They didn't connect their spirit, that cord, to the Holy Spirit, or whatever a person chooses to call it. What happens to that person? Do they go on into to be at one with Allah? Not at that time. They have some things they need to correct. They have some things that they need to go back and do over. Islam?
Islam. I think the brother has
Islam. Pretty much. That's what the usage of batteries is all about. That's why recycling is so big on this planet. So you don't get it right, you repeat it. It's a bit equivalent of failing kindergarten until you get it right. So
We don't want to fail kindergarten until we get it
No,
right.
but-
Old kindergarten.
But the reincarnation, the reason why I said reincarnation is a difficult concept to grasp for most people is because we think in linear. But in actuality, you think in your higher self, time does not have that existence. Therefore, reincarnation is not uncommon. It's just normal. It's just another thought. It's just a thought that continues to occur, and it will never cease. So it would be more apt to say that we continuing on and will never die.
By the way, the concept
Right, you're never gonna see.
A lot of stuff.
And it's never gonna be a time, it tells us in the Bible and in the Quran of Mecca and in our own Quran and in the Torah of Jews that there will never come a time when man does not exist. That won't happen. You know what I'm saying? So your higher self is really you, and there will never come a time when it don't exist, so it's timeless. With that in mind, you can see the concept of reincarnation, the thought continuing to occur through many people, because there's only one thought. That's the thought of Allah. All of the prophets brought one thought. All of the prophets brought one thought to millions of people. If they all had that one thought, then it would be what? One with Allah. One at Allah. Allah will be everywhere we at. So I'm everywhere Allah is at. There's nowhere I can be that Allah is not. Islam? When a sister have her hand up, they're gonna trump you even if your hand has already been up. Sorry. They're gonna people play spades. They play spades. They know what it is. So Islam. That's his aunt too.
I would say, my mind, starts turning and thinking. So hopefully this doesn't sound silly, but if anyone ever had a thought that my belief of going to heaven, you pass away, if you were in line with how you were supposed to be, in line with God, going to heaven, the place, is that a form of, anybody think that's a form of reincarnation? Okay. The body has died, and that energy is going.
Okay. Islam, the sister's question was, is it a form of reincarnation when you die and move forward? Is that your heaven is reincarnated, or is that hell a reincarnation? Would that be the same? That's a question she was posing.
Islam, my thoughts are, first of all, there's a on that, meaning that you've done it before. If you reach the point of where you can be at one with Allah, you haven't done it before, because then you don't have to do it again. Islam?
Yeah, that was clear. Man, that was clear. I'm cool on that right now.
Run out of here.
I can go. I can leave. I'm all right. You good?
Islam, I got one question. With the body, spirit, and soul, out of the three, the spirit is the only thing that exists, or that will exist, right?
In our 101s, it's gonna be ought.
Right.
So it doesn't say don't exist. It said it's ought. One is ought and the other is not.
Okay.
All right.
Now, the thing I'm trying to get to is okay, when we change form, we move on to the soul plane, right? Wouldn't that, so what, our spirit go to the soul plane, or the soul go to it?
It says, read it, number 4.
No, it's not 4. This one right here, 6. The higher self is a human spirit clothed with a soul made in the form of Allah.
Okay, so it's clothed in a soul. So what's gonna go to the soul plane? The soul and the spirit. The soul and the spirit gonna move forward, and the body gonna cease to exist. It's just gonna die and go back into matter. I mean, it doesn't have a purpose other than to serve. That's what the body is doing. That's why it's important not to coerce your body into doing things you don't have no business doing, because all you do is corrupt your own self. So the soul and the spirit is going to move on to the soul plane, where it's going to tarry for I don't know how long, but it's going to continue to learn lessons that we're learning now. You see, and now Jesus passed, and he went to the soul plane all the way through and came back, and he said that you can do this too. But there's a lot of lessons in here that'll show you how this works. There's a lot of lessons in here in our Holy Quran that shows us how the mindset that you have will cause you to be able to do the same things that Jesus done. That he wasn't doing something. It wouldn't even make sense if he was not flesh and equipped with the same things that I have. If he had some extra stuff, then what's the motivation? How you motivate me? Well, you say, hey, I took over this whole camp, but I had, 2 million people helping me, and you standing by yourself. That would be unequal. It wouldn't be possible for me to do what you did. So he done things that we can do. So we should feel very elated that he done what he did, so now we can do it. Not that we need to try and pray to Jesus, because that's like me praying to you. I can pray to you and you can deliver if you in your higher self. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with that. You know, but if I'm looking for Jesus to just somehow change my state of mind instantaneously so that I can go to heaven, that's just foolishness. It doesn't fit, like she said, the order of things. You have to learn what you need to know to operate your system. You know, you have a soul and a body and a spirit that you can operate to your own benefit. Or you can sit there and let somebody else operate it to their benefit. And that is called a colonized state of mind. You have a colonized state of mind that keeps you away from the benefit of your spirit, the benefit of your soul, the benefit of your body. They just use the body. They don't want you connecting to that soul and spirit. They don't want you to connect into that, because that's where the power at. So they want to keep you in that body so they can keep what? Selling you stuff. And you can keep buying things and you can keep making things. I need 2 cars. I need what?
Them
26s. I need them. So we gonna need them things, right? So that's what we don't want. We want to pull that in and then rest in our higher self, in our spirit, so that we can keep those things under control and we can be of service or a utility to the public.
When I think about your question, I think about, I'm about to date myself real bad right now. It used to be this toy for kids, and it was like, I don't know, 3 little bears or something like that, and one went inside the other. Yeah. So there was like a big one, and there was a smaller one, and there was a baby one. So when you think about the body, the soul, and the spirit, think about those 3 bears. Wow. So you have
Sister the one roll today.
And that's the body, and it's gone. So you still got those other 2. They have to go to the next level. But only that one that's in the center, that's everything, is going to go all the way to the final level. Islam?
Islam. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I want to go back to what you were saying, touching on you want the things that the pressure is putting out there for you. Now, I'll say it like this. I think from my experience, what I'm going through now, when you open up your third eye, your peanut butter, you really trying to keep it open. That means keeping the blue light, fluoride, and the things you eat and stuff like that to reach a different plane in life too. That helps you out, and you don't look at that stuff. That stuff becomes minor. It don't even exist to you because your higher power got you on a whole other level because you go into that next level. And the way you see life is not that. Not definitely not feeding the oppressor, definitely not keeping them rich, and they don't like us. Mm-hmm. So when that's open and it works just like these, your life becomes a lot better and easier.
It's not because you see distractions for what they are.
Right.
In the middle of everything that's going on on this entire planet, we don't even have to be looking at the United States. Right. There are distractions everywhere, and we get caught up in the distraction as opposed to keeping focused on what we actually need to focus on, which is actually ourselves. Yeah. We don't need to focus on all that other stuff. Islam?
So what the brother was saying was, to people just online that maybe couldn't hear that, was he was saying that once you move to that level, a lot of those other things don't come into play. So he's not trying to buy 26s. He's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about 2 houses and 3 cars and all of that stuff. He said your mind is on another level that's self-sustaining. That's what the brother was saying, and then the sister's response was that to his questions. Is there any more questions?
Okay.
Because you know the sister got the answers for you. You got a question. Don't feel shy.
Islam. So to go back, because we have to keep talking about this higher self and this lower self. We have to keep talking about them because first of all, we have to realize that we have both of them. There are people on this planet who all of a sudden wake up and feel like, oh, well, I'm this, so I don't have that. And we have to realize that we do have both and that we need to keep it in balance while we're here and strive to live towards the higher self. He said, ooh, Islam.
Man, I'm so glad you said that because I'm in the beginning stages, and but there's no turning back. And there's a fight. That lower self will show you that it's real.
The lower self is what?
All that is bad.
It's gonna show you that it's real. So you have to.
Oh, yeah, it's strong.
Like I said,
Lord
when
self
I'm about
strong.
manifestation things, and listen, I'm talking for me. You got everything got to be positive, and to understand that lower self is gonna show you that it's real at times. So just stay positive and understand that you're in a fight daily, every day.
Islam.
Every minute
Yes,
can be a fight.
It's always a spiritual warfare.
We got a sister in the
Yeah,
back.
but I was getting ready to say, as soon as, I think you may have said it, the spiritual warfare, always a spiritual warfare, because I was gonna say, we gotta remember that the fight isn't just within ourselves, and like you said, there's higher and lower, and there's also something so far, above that, you know, I call it the enemy. We can come up with different names, something that's just out there, and like you said, the spiritual warfare is also thrown in there too.
And a lot of times for me, I know over the last few years, what you said was that there, for anybody who can't hear, there's a spiritual warfare, and it's not just within us, it's around us, is what I get you saying. And for me, I know what I've come to realize is and I grew up in a Southern Baptist church and went through all of those different, changes. Then I decided I'm not going to go to any church. Oh, I'm just going to be spiritual. And then with my arms crossed and zipped up to here, I came here. But what I found is things that I thought were completely external to me are not completely external to me, because I actually control my reaction to them. And that's the part that's difficult for a lot of people. I might be angry, and I can be angry, but I don't have to react. Being, practicing Islamism is about the action itself. And my action, not my reaction, is what's the most important. So the brother was saying, he was talking about how there's a fight, and all these things that are out there, and we might want them. And, I remember hearing you want to live like the Joneses, and everybody wants to buy a house here and buy a house there, and they want those what?
26s. You gotta have them. You gotta have them.
And what it says here in our Quran is that the lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. So how many people go after these things, and it doesn't have to be doing anything illegal. You might be doing something perfectly legal, but you're working 80 hours a week. Where's your peace? You're working all those hours. Where is that time where you can spiritually connect to yourself and to that higher power? Where's your peace?
Islam on them 26s.
You have what you thought you wanted, only to find out that, but I still got problems. Think about all these stars who go to jail for tax evasion. Why? Because I still got problems.
You don't have to pay taxes.
They got Islam. Don't leave that alone. Going live. So, but yeah, we have the spiritual aspect of us as a people is a very intricate one. And I say that in a way because we have not been able to spiritually guide ourselves. We have guidance from something that is not capable of us fully flowering out. So if I, try to make this thing happen inside of a Christian church, it won't work. Am I saying something wrong with Christians? I am not. Am I saying that you can't get spirituality in Christianity? No, I'm not saying that. But you cannot have earthly salvation. You won't have it. Here, if you would have earthly salvation over the last, 400 years that you've been practicing and reading the Bible, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was stupid because I read it. I wouldn't say that my grandfather and my great-grandfather who were ministers, that there was something, something wrong with them, that they couldn't make the Christianity work. No, it's not designed to work for us. It was designed to inflict us with more harm. It's what we call evil. But in the sense of receiving Christianity and that evil, what it does is it purges us clean. And it brings us to a point where we can accept nothing but Islam. And you're going to get to that point if you haven't gotten there, because it ain't getting no better out there. Because you can't accept nothing but the purity of spirituality. And that's what Islam is. It's the purity of spirituality. So how high do you want to go? So when we say we're in a warfare with our spirituality, that's really a misnomer. We're not at warfare with anybody. We should be at war with what people are designating as spirituality. So when somebody say, hey, you're going to hell. Now we should be having a problem with that. You know, how are you gonna say I'm going to hell anyway? Who are you to be sending me to hell? I don't see some Muslim brothers send all the Christians to hell. And I don't see some Christians send all the Muslims to hell. I said, I don't want no problems in there. One of y'all gonna be, everybody gonna be in hell together. So I don't want no problems. So it's not to them to do that. If I'm in my higher self, it is I. It is I who perpetrates the acts that provide me with the hell that I'm in. It is I. So no matter if you're Christian, Moors, whatever you are, it will be you that commit the acts that bring about hell. So when we say the lower self and the higher self, we break these things down. So that is our Islam.
I like where you just went there because
That's your segue. There we go.
the lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
What do you do again?
The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
Wow. So that's who's doing all of this stuff. So when you got to go over there, I got to have mine. I got to get mine. The lower self, bringing harm to others. In the name of what you say is supposed to be better, so I can get my what?
26 is Islam. The sister had a question.
Islam.
Thank you. You know, you got all those nasty words in there, murder, slander, and all that. But the nastiest word in there is breeds.
Islam.
Yes.
So the sister said, although we said all these words in here, hatred, lewdness, slander, the nastiest word in there is
It's breed
breeds.
that replicates.
It replicates itself.
Ooh-wee.
Islam.
Ooh-wee.
Sisters
Hey,
on
sisters
fire
on
up
roll
here
up in here.
today.
The sister said breeds these things.
Breeds these things.
Gives birth.
Self-replicating.
She said it gives birth.
Self-replicating.
So in other words, once you start killing and lying and stealing, it becomes easy for you to do that. It breeds itself. I had a statement that I made. Don't ever make a wrong thing an option, because it will forever be an option to you. So don't ever do it when it's wrong and you know it's wrong. When you contemplate, I shouldn't do this, I'm gonna just do it once. Now that's gonna become an option for you. But if you don't ever do it, you will always consider it not an option. And you'll get stronger and stronger at not doing those things. Islam?
Islam.
Let's
I
look
got-
at the brother got something.
Well, the train of thought that a lot of people, if you're not, it's not something that you believe in, they kind of promote going against it. They're like, you're kind of saying that, well, if you're a Christian, okay, if you don't believe in Christianity, you're going to hell. Or if you don't believe in this, you're going to hell. But I was just wondering why is it that's promoted amongst most people?
But I have an answer. Why is it promoted amongst people that if you don't have the same belief I have, this is gonna happen to you? Ego. Ego is why. Because I'm self-righteous. I gotta be right. But see, we're taught that we need to live through love. Love has understanding within it.
Mhm.
And if you don't have that love, you're just gonna be crushing people down. In the Moorish literatures, there's a piece in there about the tongues. The tongue is one of the worst things on the planet sometimes because that tongue will destroy people. You can beat somebody up, but not the same way that you can with a tongue.
Slam.
That's why it's done.
You got a sister.
It was like,
Yeah.
No, go ahead. No, knock yourself out.
The sister comes first.
And that what you guys were saying just made me think too. Life and experience, lack of for some people is a lot of the problem too, because sometimes all it takes is a good experience about a lot of things, and then you really can begin to connect with the higher self, shoot the lower self out, because when you become humble about something, that is a way to begin to see things differently, see things, see things through the spiritual eyes, spiritual hearing, the spiritual senses, and then, you see the difference. So I think that's another connection, being humble to things and experiencing things. It can help you learn to change, get to that higher.
Islam.
Islam, the sister said being able to be experiencing things, that has an impact. Exposure to things has an impact. There's a lot of things there's tons of things that I have never experienced, not even just experienced, never even been exposed to,
Right.
that you don't even know exist, that can in one day just change the way you think about something. Again, I have to go back to this, I'm zipped up to here, and I actually love to tell that story because I'm so different now than I was then, and it hasn't been that long ago. So I love to tell that story because I think people should see it. Doesn't mean that there's not something that makes me mad. Oh yes, stuff makes me mad almost every day. However, I don't have to react on it, and I can push that mad down because it's really not that important anyway. Time does not exist in the way that we are forced to think that time exists. That doesn't mean that you don't need to take care of your business, but if all we're focusing on is time, we're not focusing on self. And the prophet said, if you would ask me what to study, I would say study yourselves. So
Right.
we have to focus on ourselves.
Right.
And we getting towards time, so I got a little bit of something else because we can have this conversation. I love this conversation. I love these dialogues. I love all of this, and I love all of this. And the thing is, you know, you can have the Bible, you can have the Torah, you can have the Quran. One of the things that occurred with this, the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, is the prophet did these little things throughout and gave holy instructions to follow. So not only do we know that we're supposed to do something, there's something that tells you how to do it. So to like kind of bring this, you know, bring this together again, I have something from, it's on page 36, and it's chapter 26, the Holy Instructions of Unity, because all of this started out talking about structure, following order, and unity, and we have to be of unity. And we talked about so many of these things, different people talking about so many of these things, that it's like, okay, you know how they say, if you hear something, you say something, and somebody else says it, it's kind of like that's confirmation. That's what my grandmother used to always say. So when things like this happen, okay, it's confirmation, and you get that feeling in your belly, and you feeling, I got that feeling right now. I got all kinds of energy going on.
Right.
So the first verse says, the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. So we think about, and I meditate on all those things that we talked about the lower self and what the lower self wants and the things that people will do to get there. But in all actuality, what we're supposed to have, it already belongs to us. And I don't need them 26s.
Don't need them.
They don't fit on my car anyway, but I don't need them.
They got some lipstick you put on.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
She got a Prius.
26.
You got five.
Got jokes.
Clean, though.
I like my Prius.
Get the 26s on the Prius.
Yeah, it changed my gas mileage.
Right.
So. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of the truth? Communicate it to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicate it to the wise for thine own improvement. So don't just have the knowledge. And I just said this last night. Oh my goodness. Last night, I was with the sister right there. I was with the brother right there and a whole lot of other people. And actually he said it, that I have a lot of knowledge that I got through books and all kinds of things, but I don't believe it was for me. I believe it was for me to share. It was for me to give pieces of it to everybody and not necessarily charge for those pieces. It's just there. Knowledge exists. Knowledge exists for a reason. The prophet said, get you a good European education and I can use you. I got a good European education and I'm free right here. All the knowledge that I can share with the rest of the world. Islam.
Yeah, one of the things in this particular chapter that kind of helps out a lot is having a clarity of words. It's, at a particular time, you use the word understand. Understand, here's an understand. It's an under. It's under here. It's a stand holding this up. See? It's the stand holding this up. So to understand something is then to support it. So if you have an understand, you support it. So if you're in court and they go, do you understand? You go, yeah, I understand. We're going to give you a 5 to 15. Do you understand? You say, I understand. Really saying, I support that. Here go that 5 to 15. Boom. I'm going to give you a 12 to 80. Do you understand? Yeah, I'll give you a 12 to 80.
And then you're mad because I got done wrong.
Right.
No,
Comprehension
you didn't comprehend.
Your comprehension was low. So understand. So when you look in here, it say the gifts of the understanding. So he is telling you that the greatest gift you're gonna ever have is the ability to be able to support. Oh, right. Y'all thought it was deep, didn't you? You thought it was gonna be real phenomenal.
That was
It's
deep.
simple. It's simple. You have to support. The sister at the beginning said that if you want a loving community, then what you got to do? You got to love. The brother in the back said it. You got to love, because that'll be. If you want a giving community, what do you got to do?
Yeah.
Right. You it. So the more you give, the more other people give. That you got to give a community. So the truth of the matter is, and the simplicity of it all is, it's necessary simply for you to support.
So
That is the gift that you have.
So, question. You feel a setup coming,
Here
don't
it
you?
comes.
So, if I get caught up in stuff and I'm projecting anger out there in the world, what am I doing? Supporting anger?
Yeah, you want somebody to fight you.
Islam, you want a bad
You want
mind.
you want somebody to fight you. That's what you're doing. You're looking for a fight.
Programming
That's it.
issue.
Right.
Programming.
Oh.
So all that stuff that I'm listening to that's making me angry, that's making us as a people angry, is programming me to be angry so I can support anger and give all of y'all some of that anger too.
Right.
Islam, they spend billions on it.
That's what you want to do.
If you're not
You got
programming
your
your
sister.
mind and oppressor,
You
program.
got to raise your hand, bro. And your sister already got her. Go ahead, sis.
I think anger is good for a time. There's a time for righteous anger. If we're going along a course and that course needs interrupting, then some new information that disturbs a current comfort zone has to come in. It's going to disrupt. Whenever that vessel, produces it to the world or shares it with the world, it's supposed to disrupt, to change course. For a season, for a time, and you don't have to say it with anger, you can just let it be known. It's supposed to shake. There's a time for a righteous shaking, a righteous anger. So it's not just, that you stay in that energy. It's used as a tool just like anything else.
Can somebody Google the word anger and look up the definition for the word anger?
And
But you have to look up the etymology of the word
right,
anger.
and
They already know to go to etymology and then go to anger.
You actually used something in what you said that I didn't use in what I said. So I'm gonna point it out. You used the word righteous, okay? And you used I didn't use the word righteous. I just simply said anger. And you used the word act and not react. The problem a lot of times is the anger that we might have and the reaction, not the actual righteousness and the action. And that there's a disconnect there. When you talk about the etymology of words and concepts, that's where that disconnect actually is. So yeah, because, and you also talked about comfort zones. We do need to get out of our comfort zone because that's where we grow. And that's why a lot of these things and these instructions are so difficult for people because they're not comfortable because we're not used to it.
So did anybody look it up? Do you have anything? Go ahead, sister up front.
A strong feeling of annoyance, pleasure, or hostility.
Right. And does anybody go into etymology and look it up? Go ahead, the brother in front.
It says hostile attitude, ill will, surliness. Then it also says also distress, suffering, anguish, and agony.
Okay. Both of the things that both of them read dealt with a state of mind of a person when they're considered angered. It doesn't deal with an action. So a lot of times when we hear, man, he's angry, we've seen violence portrayed. So that's why sometimes it's difficult to explain things because we don't have a grip on the English language. We have a grip on secular language. And when things are being explained, you have to make a difference between the two. So in court, when people are talking, there's a different language. And I always say this, that there's two conversations going on. The one that the judge is having with me and the one that the rest of the people is hearing. You see? So they wondering why I walk out because they didn't hear this conversation. So when you don't know the definitions or you don't do the etymology to the word, you don't see that word doesn't take an action. It's only a state of mind. So I can be angered like this. Truly angry. But our concept of anger is furious, and we're doing some things in this, but that's not actually what that word means. So we have to be clear when we speaking as to what somebody is saying before we jump on them. We gotta let them know, okay, that's clarity. What the sister was saying is that state of mind that you come to where you get to a point where I'm annoyed with that completely and totally. I'm not dealing with that no more. She's irritated, so now she's gonna look for a solution to that problem. Not go out and get a gun or strap a vest on and go blow nobody up or go shoot nobody or none of that. She's just angered, perturbed, and gonna come to the conclusion of some things and make a change. That's what she's saying. Islam.
My dissertation was about self-perceived stress in nurses. I had 2 comments. And the thing is, stress is something that gets us up every day and gets us in action. It's distress that makes us react. So those are 2 very different things. The other thing that I was going to say, it went somewhere. I don't know. You took it. I think you took it.
Islam.
You took it and you put it with them 26s. But the other thing that I was going to say is he talked about a situation where it's a court situation. That also happens in my field in a medical situation because we use a completely different language. We are taught a completely different language. So somebody might call me and think, tomorrow I'm going to die. And me, I hear, well, what exactly did they say to you? And they tell me exactly what the doctor or somebody said. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. You tell me, oh, well, they said I had a tumor. What did they say exactly? Oh, it was a fatty tumor. Okay, so that just means you have a lump of fat to me. What the person heard was, I have cancer. So even in a situation like that, it's a different language. And if you don't know the language, you're scared of the language. Or you just accept whatever it is you think the person said to you.
Islam.
There's one thing I want to tag on the end of that is a couple things. You know, these things that we have defined as emotions or states, as the brother said, I've begun to look at everything as energies. And so these are entities as well that exist spiritually, if you will, but they're energies, you know? So be aware of the angry spirit, if you will, or the spirit of greed and things like that. Be aware of these things as you progress in staying in your higher self. And the other thing is, you know, what we are talking about topically is a very intense subject matter of words, spelling, the etymology of those words, because this English language is purposefully tricky by design. It's made the way that it is by design. So you have to understand when you are thinking, speaking, and then writing, the power, number one, that you possess, and then the power that you are transferring when you are thinking, especially idle thoughts, just the most idle of thoughts, and it takes off, and it'll become manifest. So what they were just talking about, I just wanted to kind of make a statement or a point that do not take any of those things lightly. And we were talking about, you used the word self-righteous, and then you used the words righteous, anger. And I never thought about it just now until you all said it, but I was like, well, how can you be self-righteous and how can you be have anger and be righteous? Because you know, the understanding that I've grown into is I may strive to be right. I may strive to be an upright human being, meaning if the lady give me too much change at the store, I'm gonna give it back to her. You know, I'm gonna do that. That's the right thing to do. I see somebody in distress on the side of the road, I'm gonna stop, pull over, see if they need some help. You know, you got AAA, you're gonna be good. Okay, you good. Okay, I'm gonna take off, or I'll help you change your tire or something like that. I'm gonna do those kinds of things. That's the right thing to do. However, righteousness is when I'm in a position that affects the multitudes. I'm gonna do what's right for the multitude. So when we use those words, self-righteous or righteous anger, it just puzzled me because I never thought about it. How can I be righteous, and
angry at the same time.
I gotta be one or the other.
Right.
But,
So
but that's the dichotomy.
And that's why I was saying this is a tricky language that we use secularly,
Right.
and we don't realize we watching TV. Oh man, this dude crazy. Da 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 da. They having a political conversation. They're using political language, but we're taking it because we watch all these fake reality TV shows. We're watching them as if it's entertainment. It's not entertainment because they're not playing at all. Key into the words they use and the language they use, even the signs and symbols that they make. Islam.
Let me say something on the end of what he just said, because he went into an open field. So so when you're watching politics and they're going out, that politics is for the European earthly salvation.
Islam.
They don't have an earthly salvation. Christianity was created for that, so they can have politics to have an earthly salvation.
Islam.
You don't have any politics, and you're not practicing the earthly salvation. So when you get into their things and you're trying to figure it out, and it ain't making no sense. Well, it ain't supposed to make no sense to you. It's for their earthly salvation. And they would be retarded to make their existence based upon your earthly salvation, because they will cease to exist. That's why they needed Christianity from the beginning. If you check back to the Nicaea, what is that? The
Council of
Nicene Creed, right? If you go back to that, you'll be able to see those things, how they put those tribes and things together to be able to work through everything that they needed to make Christianity a unity between them all. So you'll see Tuesday is the goddess, you'll see Saturday is another goddess. You'll see all those things working together to bring about Christianity so they all can get along. So that their political salvation, their earthly salvation will be able to be moving forward, which is what you see now. So your earthly salvation or political salvation is based upon what your prophet brought for you, which is the Moorish Science Temple of America over 100 years ago. He brought it.
See, you know it's real when the deer come to listen.
The deer's
The
coming.
deer come to listen. You
And
know it's real when the deer
and
come
we are actually by our own charter, or we are over time, and we're going to have to close out because it's mandatory for us to do that. So we're going to close out. However, we're going to keep going. But if somebody has some other business to get to, they can. But we're going to go about another 30 minutes, and we it's up to each individual. So we had a sister close us out. Prayer. We'll rise and please face the east.
5 on the left, 2 on the right. As my baby says, bang.
5 on the left, 2 on the right.
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
the Father of love,
truth,
peace,
freedom, and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
and
my salvation,
my salvation,
by night and by day,
by night and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Amen.
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 Please stay in the position that you're in. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. This we ask in your holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen.
Amen. All right.
All right.
So, and I say for those that need to get going, you can. If not, we're gonna go about another 30 minutes here and see if it. Now, after the discussion that took place, is there any question that somebody has in particularly that's not fixated on this or is fixated on this? You can feel free to ask any question that you have concerning. There's a sister in the back here.
I just want to go back to what the brother asked, because he asked, why is it that people, when they don't believe the same thing that you believe, why does that give them a fight? Like, why does that make people fight?
Well, he said, why do they do that? Why do they want to make that other person go to hell because it's not what they believe? All right,
I think we've been trained to do that, but to tie the lesson in is with what you were saying. You were saying that our lower selves and our higher selves will create situations. They will manifest situations in our lives to answer all of our life's questions, really. So if we have those issues with other people, it will bother us to the point where we create a situation on, in the earth plane that we experience so that it's reflected to us and we can learn the lesson. And when we're crushed like that, we stop doing that. We just accept the path that people are on.
Right.
and their understanding.
So what we
Islam.
call wisdom as people get older, they realize some things.
Islam,
Yeah.
because you used a word. I'm gonna go back to something I said earlier. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. So that's exactly what you just said, because that's exactly how it is.
Right.
And when we unify ourselves within ourselves, we can unify ourselves outside of ourselves. And that's a struggle. That's a struggle on a regular, especially like we were discussing. There's so many things that we have experienced that, or not experienced, that impact the way that we perceive something to be and the way that we react to it.
And I'm gonna read something that go to what the sister, we didn't actually get through all of the material because we had questions, but there's nothing wrong with that. It happens often because people have questions and they wanna get them done. This is a reading I'm gonna make out of the Moorish Science Temple of America, our Quran. And I'm going to read chapter 48, and it is verse number 9. It says, "The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland, which thy Lord, thy God, Allah has given thee." So it said there's a covenant between the God Allah and somebody. So this is in our Quran, so I'm going to wager that it's going to be with us. So do everybody know what a covenant is? Can anybody look that up?
Like agreement?
Somebody Google covenant. Yeah, it is an agreement. It is an agreement, but it's a specific kind. So we have somebody that's gonna look it up so we can be clear as to why we actually here. You know, why we doing what we doing up here in the Moorish Science Temple of America, all over to the United States. You'll find us doing these same things. You ready, sister?
Agreement,
An agreement.
contract agreement, undertaking, commitment, guarantee, warranty, pledge, promise, bond.
Ooh-wee. A warranty, a promise, a guarantee, a bond. So that's saying that a law got a warranty, a promise, a guarantee, and a bond with you. So that's why we here, because we got a warranty and a guarantee. It ain't nothing you can do to me. I'm a minister in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I got a bond with Allah. So if I go to court, I go anywhere else, I have no fear of what you think you're about to do. Because what Allah gonna do, you can't perceive it. And it's just a fact. And it comes from where they can't perceive. So I don't have no fear when I have to go in and say, I had to go in and took our treasurer. You can't keep the treasurer. That's not going to work out. What they do, here, take your treasure, leave. You know what I'm saying? Well, we need a bond. We don't got none of that. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because we have a covenant with Allah. So all of you have a covenant with Allah. That's a covenant. He got an agreement with you. Now you need to know what your end of the agreement is. She said at first, it's a contract. It's an agreement. What's your part of the agreement? What you supposed to do so that you can reap the benefit of what Allah has provided you with.
Goodness, I see where you're going here.
But please explain.
I need to honor my foremothers and forefathers.
It said, honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may be longer upon the earthland. Now, who is your mother and your father? That black woman? That black man? It's not possible. The prophet said that
It didn't exist
right.
until it was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So, since we were on this planet before 1779, that can't possibly be true.
Can't happen. So we have to be something other than black. And the prophet is saying that honor thy mother and father. How can I honor my mother and father if I'm calling them other than what they are? So somebody say, my mother's something else. She this, that, that. She's a B. Hold on, bro. You don't lost your mind. She can be all that, but you don't lost your mind. Because you don't got carried away with yourself. You know, so we have to be able to honor our mothers and fathers. Those that came before 1776, that gave us our true history. We need to be able to let the ones that know in between, because the only reason why they got to that point is because they started moving away from the things they're supposed to do, and they got on the wrong side of the law. And they could not see, they could not hear, and their heart had been covered. And they could not gauge what the things they were supposed to be doing. And they went into darkness. We fell into darkness. We started calling ourselves black, and we started acting black, and we started doing things that was not godlike, not godlike. So now that time is evident, that blind has evidently been lifted by a law, because everybody is starting to see. So now that it's time for you to see, your actions need to move you forward down this line. Now, I'm not saying you're going to just all of a sudden be all of this, but you at least got to put some time in. We in here every Sunday. We here every Sunday. You know, this started off 4 years ago, and it was 3 of us in here. That was it. We had another room. We didn't need this much space. We was down the room. So and then,
That's the room that I first went
right. She was in the little room. So we was looking at her.
I mean, I was zipped up close to it too.
She had an attitude. She had an attitude. She was not trying to hear it.
I had a reaction before the action. Like it was a reaction before I even got there. I had a plan.
Her husband came in. He kept coming home talking about, yeah, right. I know some stuff.
You need to do this. You need to claim your nationality. And then my European education was like, you need to get out my face.
Right.
Trying to tell me what to
It
do.
was going down up in there. So she came in saying, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this myself. So she got a PhD.
And I had a
So
plan.
right.
I had a
Just
plan.
now, her came in, her name was Toby.
My plan
What
was,
on her?
if they tell me Jesus don't exist, I'm gonna rip them to shreds. If they tell me I gotta be completely covered from head to toe and walk 5 feet behind Chris, I'm gonna rip them to shreds. I get in there, I didn't tell them this was my plan. And I had talked to the then Grand Sheik the night before. So he's assured me that this is a great thing, and he sounded nice enough. I still went in, zipped up to here, legs crossed. I mean, if I could have crossed everybody part, it would have been crossed. My fingers was probably crossed. But then the first thing they wanted to talk about, and it had such an impact because of what I had already planned. And it was, the title for that particular day was, well, it wasn't the title, it was what it was about. It was about Mary and Elizabeth teaching John and Jesus. What? Okay, so wait a minute. Y'all admit that Jesus exists. Okay, I can't fight you on that. Then they started talking about how sisters need to be uplifted. You know, they picking up the front of the 101s and uplifting fallen humanity. And for anybody who has never seen this, it shows the prophet uplifting fallen humanity, which is the form of a woman. So women, when put in their proper place, allowed to be in their proper place, can help guide the nation. I said, I ain't giving up yet. Y'all gonna slip up. I'm looking for one crack and I'm coming in the kitchen.
She's coming in with it.
Yeah, well, I'm still looking. I ain't found it yet. So
Now that she's up here. She's up here now giving these classes so that people can come in here. And we let everybody know you have an obligation. You have an obligation. You're not gonna find that obligation. And don't get me wrong, my mother go to church. She went to church today. We talk about what she talked about in church and everything else. Because that's just where she at. And I talk to her about this. You know what I'm saying, all the time. And she know all about it. She was probably sitting and explaining to you. And you ask her, what is she gonna tell you a Moorish American. Because she clear on that part. Because I mean, and if you come enough time, I can show you through different documents that you can't be black. You know, and when you get a chance, if you just want to look it up real quick, you can just Google a black man.
or Form 181.
Oh yeah, you can look up Form 181, right? Form 181. It'll come up and read that. It's gonna trip you out. Or you can just look up. It says a black man has no rights upon which a white man is bound to respect. Now, a black man has no rights upon which a white man is bound to respect. And that causes a lot of problems, people, because that was upheld in the Supreme Court. Right, yeah, so you don't have to respect them.
And then you go back here and say, because the name was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So why would that exist?
So why do they keep on accepting it? They said it was given. Why do you keep accepting that black? Why do you keep accepting the fact that you black? They telling you that you black. They telling you that you're African American. Why would you keep accepting that? You know what I'm saying? Because that it lasted till 1865. Was it?
Yep.
65.
So and now it's a done deal. So why are we still doing that? Why would we continue on? We on self-guidance into a colonized state of mind. And we continuing to colonize ourselves and continuing to make our kids colonize. So if you wonder why, man, why do I want the, you know,
The
26? Why do I want the 26? I want them because that's what I want to get. I want them because that man got them, that man got them. I want this kind of car. I want that kind of car. I want 3 cars. I need a summer house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want some red bottoms. Right. I want some, you know, because we got it, because the sisters ain't necessarily we want the 26. Right. But we might want some nice person.
I see some new sisters coming out. They want 26. If you ain't got 26, you ain't getting no holler anyway. So you need, anywhere it goes, 26 is needed. So, but when you look at the colonization process, it started for what? Capital. So the people came over here and became to send stuff back to the main land so that they can make profit. So if you stop buying stuff, then there's no profit. So then it's not colonization, then it's a flop. So colonization is the fact that you have to keep buying. Like, why buy a pair of jeans and there's nothing wrong with the pair you got? Well, because I got to buy the new ones that just came out. Well, what about these ones? Well, they just sit there. And he got on old ones. See what the concern is, all about things that will make colonization profitable. So a person can come and say, well, the gas company, for instance, they're going to charge us because they didn't make enough money, so they need to raise the gas up. Now, what kind of mess is that? That's the thinking of colonization. Then we go, okay. Well, no, well, then you got the same risk that everybody else got. If it get colder outside than you expected, or you got to invest more money in new supplies, then you take the same risk that everybody else takes, or you go out of business like everybody else go out of business. But colonization allows them to continue on, to ensure that profits is made. You see? So that's why you end up going to buy every pair of Jordans. You know what I'm saying? I gotta have every pair. I don't want to be the man just for a minute. I want to be the man every day, all the time. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to get nothing back. You see, so there's a problem. Now, will we stop doing all the things? Because I did the same hustling that a lot of y'all probably did. So are we going to stop? Just stop? We're not. But we can help ourselves on our way to stopping by helping out other people. So, and I go to brothers and I say, man, you know, look, we need to get this. I guess the brother bought this flag. You know, so they got tired of me, you know, how much it cost me? I said, it's going to probably be about $200. It was only like 60 something, but then I bought some other stuff for the tip. You know what I'm saying? But they just got tired of me coming and saying, but I do that because I want to save them. Because when you give stuff that goes to a righteous path, somewhere along the line, that righteousness come back and hit you, and it helps you out. So even though you're doing wrong, still try to do right. You know, so you'll see when you see people like the what was that? When Denzel Washington played the gangster. The American, right? He played Frank Lucas, but you see, he went to church. When you see the what was the other one? Al Capone. Every Sunday you seen him in church. All of those gangster movies, you see them going to that spiritual side of that and paying that. They're always in the front. Why? They dropping at the door. So when they run into the point where inevitably gonna happen, you got to face the piper. They got people coming in and say, yeah, he did wrong. He was doing wrong, but he was trying. And we want to help him. We believe he don't learn his lesson, and we want to forgive him. You know, so we had the power to do that. So we don't have the power if people don't help themselves. They don't come in and say, hey, here goes something. Because I get them all the time. They call, bro, look, this is what happened. And my brother went there, and they got him in. He had all this, and they talk about giving him life and all that. I can't do nothing. The man ain't never came to the temple one time. He ain't never called. Nothing. When he got the money that he took from the people, doing the illicit wrong that he was doing, he didn't even think to help the people that was doing good. He went and only bought him 26. He didn't buy his boys in his gang with him the 26s. The boys rolling with him to help him get it. They don't even got to. I can't understand it. Well, why ain't they at least all got it? Why you just got it? You know what I'm saying? Man, they gonna have to get their own, bro. That ain't the way this works. You gotta be a team, no matter what you're doing. But you missing it on this level. You sure ain't gonna get it on this one. So we trying to bring that back to ourselves, so we'll know. Like we got gardens that we grow food. You know, this was our first year of garden. We did pretty well. We did, you know, and we took stuff out to people and we started a co-op so that we can learn to feed ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And we won't have to be dealing with the fact that their food is going up and down. They trying to control that so that they can do what? Make profits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the colonized state of mind is not a farmer. You know, that ain't gonna work for them because a farmer will get some use out of a pair of jeans.
Islam, I'm on right now at this moment, because I think this is a great moment for me to do it. I spoke about an event that I was a part of last night, and it was called Unsung Toledo. And it was about people who do things in Toledo because they simply do them. And I was invited there. I was nominated by the sister right there. And I was one of the honorees. One of the things that was said when I came up there was somebody who's well known in the community, and I've known her for decades, but by other people who are well known in the community. Well, I thought I knew everybody. Why don't I know you? Why don't I know who you are? Tell us why. Because our job is to do the work, not necessarily look for the recognition for the work.
That's right.
So when we speak about the card, and the reason I actually brought this up is because of what wonderful things she's actually doing in the community, because that was what is going to be a signature fundraiser.
Right.
And as opposed to doing like, you know, they have toys for tots, they have all these different things. She's looking at doing things like, okay, well, there's this family and this mom has to leave the children at home and while she goes to wash clothes. So part of the fundraiser was to buy a washer and dryer for this mom. Now, other organizations that I've been in, they do things like that, but we're not doing things like that.
Sure.
Another sister that was there, who I went to school with and known for decades too, stands up and she talks about these plots of land that she got. First house will be built on this land in January, and they're going to homeless people. The homeless people will be required to pay electricity and water, and then have a roof over their heads. We are doing things. The problem is we're not sharing in the correct way that we're doing things. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we reconnect with people, because we're waking up. It's a new era of time now. As the prophet said, wait, he said it's a new era of time now. Back in what year? What year was this written? It's a new era of time now. And we have to wake up, and we have to stay awake, and we have to be in action while we're awake.
It says, and I'm gonna read that since he said it. He said that with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. So he's telling us that you, by law, because this is our Constitution, it makes law. This is our Constitution here. These are our bylaws and our Constitution. You can't be operating or functioning without bylaws. It's not going to work. No corporation, no company, nowhere. Have to have bylaws to be legit. And this is filed. It's all legit. When you go in there and talk, they already know what you're talking about. Like I got a license to marry people, you know. So that lets you know it's legit. It's going through this state right here. You know, I can go in another state and do the same thing.
And no organization, because you said corporation. You know, we started thinking really big. Well, in August, I decided that with some other colleagues and some students that we didn't have a multicultural student nurses organization at the University of Toledo. Well, one of the things that we had to do in order to do that is we had to develop a constitution before the University of Toledo would even look at it. So we did develop that constitution, and the University of Toledo College of Nursing does now have a multicultural student nurses organization with me as the founding advisor. But my point was, if we don't have these things in place, they don't mean anything. To speak to something else that brother talked about, you know, it all ties to money. Everything ties to money. So when I annexed the L on the end of my name, I actually did it before it showed up on Facebook, so people didn't really realize what was going on. But Went to the bank. Okay, you know something is legit when it starts bothering money, right? Go to the bank, show the people at the bank my paperwork. Immediately, the whole account was changed to Temeaka Gray-L. That's affecting money.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's real when you know it's real. Islam?
They see that L or that Bay on that name, they tend to look at you a little bit differently, you know. But you need to at all costs, you need to earn your respect by knowing who you are. And if you claim your nationality, then you need to start behaving in an honorable manner to get things going, you know. And you'll see changes in your life, and you see changes in people around you. It's not too young. Our youngest member, and I say member, the paperwork filled out and everything, is 19. Oh, I'm bad. That's my fault. 20. She just had a birthday.
Our youngest
Our youngest is.
Well, no, our youngest one is even younger than that.
Right,
11.
right. He said he gonna be the man. He 11. So when we were saying with him, he usually say what to do when you turn around. He said, "You probably want to look." He tell you that loud and clear.
Heels together, face to east. All rise and face to east. Heels together. 5 on the left, 2 on the right, and then he leads the prayer. We were reading and we talk about different holy books because we don't throw any holy books away.
Right.
We keep them all. And so we were reading one night. We were reading the 101s. And we were reading out of the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America and out of the Bible. So Christian, it was while we were at convention.
Mm-hmm.
Christian looks at me and he says, "Mom, how old do I have to be an adept?" Which is where you've been trained and you have some extra knowledge and you know you reach a certain level. And I said, "Well, Christian, I think you might be able to do it, but not before you're 18. He said, "Well, Mom, it says in the Bible Jesus was 12. I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm 11.
Right.
Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying.
The sister got something
I
to
was
say.
gonna give a comment to you guys in the beginning when you came out starting the topic was about knowing how to act and using an example of flashing the car
Right,
and kind of
exactly.
getting maybe getting cocky with it. Nice way to bring it full circle right now is when you commented just accepting your nationality and understanding yourself and then knowing how to carry yourself and act.
Right.
So it kind of just piggyback right in the beginning of to the beginning of what you started out with.
So and that's a very powerful thing, but it also has to be tempered with balance, because if you, let's say you knew everything that I knew and everything that she knew, and you knew all of that plus some, but you didn't claim yourself to be a Moorish American, you didn't have a nationality, you still called yourself black, you would not get the respect that I get or she get, simply because you're black and you don't deserve it. I mean, that's the bottom line. You just don't, you're not gonna get it. There was a incident where Oprah went to France, and Oprah is not really wanting for any kind of money. So not really. She goes to a store and they come up to the store and she walking up there and they lock the door because it was time to close. And she go, hey, when you get in, they go, "We closed." She like, "Well, do you know who I am?" They like, "Well, yeah, we know who you are." You know what I'm saying? They closed and went back in. A big stink happened on the internet or whatever about it, but they didn't let her in, because she black.
And she wasn't the only person that has happened to.
Right. They don't care. People don't respect you. But if you go over there and you got this on and you're more, you ain't gotta have the money. When you hit to go, hey, they love you. You get on the plane, they don't nobody have no problem with you. When I walk in the courtroom, they don't take that, ain't none of that.
You can go to other places right here in the United States and be shocked by the reception, like completely flabbergasted. Oh, the one where our name became Fez or
right,
L.
Right.
And they were Lebanese or Syrian or something like that, and it's interesting because people will come up to you and ask you questions, and you think the questions are random, but then you realize that they're actually asking you questions to see if you know who you are because they already know who you are.
Right.
My most interesting one, and my 18-year-old would attest to this, was when we went to where'd we go? Vegas. We were on our way to Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm wrapped. I got my pin on. She's wrapped. My husband had on his fez and our 11-year-old had on his. So we get in line and people start walking up and talking to you, and it's airport people. Now, I'm a psychologist, so I like social experiments. So this was the first time I went, I didn't have any garb on at all, but Chris did. Somebody comes up, they talking to him, they got all kinds of questions. Oh, so what's that hat called? He said it's a fez. And you know, you would be thinking that they're making fun of you until you see it happen again. He's like, oh, and that symbol. He had on his symbol. What's that symbol? What does that mean? I think I've seen that on a flag or something before. And you just like, if you're not knowing, you like, well, this person get away from you. Kind of got an attitude. Then, and they're not paying me no attention at all. Like they only talking to Chris.
Right.
Clearly, I'm with him, but they're not paying me any attention at all. I can comment, and they're not paying any attention to what I'm saying. Next time in the airport, and that time it was just me and Chris, and we're garbed up, and I'm going through, and he's going through, and somebody comes up again. This time we in Cleveland, comes up and starts talking to him, asking questions. Next thing you know, we don't go through the X-ray machine. We don't get patted down. They walk us around it. I have my son's birth certificate, and I was asked, I said, I'm getting ready to pull it out because, you know, that's what you do. You got a minor, you need to show that it's yours so you're not kidnapping them. And he said, wait a minute, I don't think you're going to need that. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, what's your name, son? My son said, Christian Gray L. He said, you don't need it. And it was like, what? My kids were like, they were amazed. I was amazed. Some other things, we in DC, we was in DC together. Somebody hollers from the foot of a bridge across the street, it's the board! Out of nowhere. Like, what is really going on here? These are things that you see in a movie and you might laugh about them, or you're like, that can't be real. Because you're seeing it in a movie. This stuff is real.
I'm gonna cut her off. She deserved it today. But there was a guy from Ethiopia was coming out of Union Station in DC. And he started speaking the dialect they speak. So I'm looking at him, and he looked at my face, and he patted me on my back and started laughing, and all I heard was free. So I said, oh, okay, I got you now. Because normally, they will not speak to you if they think that you're a Black American. Once they realize you have a nationality, whole different story. So I was talking to another guy, he said, oh yeah. He was commenting on your fez. And so after that point, throughout DC, or just wearing his head dressed like I said, I wasn't in here, but Vegas was something else. Cleveland. Had a brother literally walk with me just talking. He said, my brother's a Bay. So we talking, he said, so he told me to come over, you know, because we was talking, and he's like, I'm a Mason. So I said, okay, I said, I came from that. He said, I chopped it with my brother, and it's just so much that I didn't know about Masonry. He said that he told me, he said, so we chop it up all the time. He said, maybe you ought to investigate. He said, I need my nationality. I said, then go get it. And next time I come through here, I'll look for you.
That's not the way he was saying it to me though, a couple of years ago coming home.
Like, you better go get it.
Well, she was hard head.
I felt like he was doing this.
Right. And then, you know, sometimes we get like that when we talking to people.
It's passion.
And one of the things that we follow is there's no compulsion. There's no compulsion in our way of life. So it's no need to get upset with someone about them not understanding that they need to get their nationality together because they're just not there yet. But the priority thing is to try to support them on their way there. So don't be bringing them down when they still learning. You know, they're not hurting nobody or something like that. Ain't no sense in that. You know, I can still support you. I can still bring you things. I can still sit and talk with you. And I sit and talk with people. It don't matter what it is. I was talking to a guy who was an atheist, you know, and he made some very strong points. But, you know, towards the end, he kind of fell off on strength-wise, you know, some things you can't explain, you know. So we had to do that. We're going to get ready to close out. Anybody have any last question or anything they want? The sister here.
Yeah,
That's the last question.
I can only tell you my own experience is that I practice freedom in this Toledo model in Toledo Municipal Court.
Right.
I'm 3-0 down there, and I go
Right.
back November 30th. It's not because I'm connected to a specific like more. I don't even know that it's connected to a land, but
Right.
it's because I have assumed my own I am and done my research within society, structural systems
Right.
that can support with facts
Yeah.
why I'm not a slave of this plantation.
Right.
So I go back November 30th, but it really has to do with understanding of the systems.
Right.
Metaphysically and physically and structurally.
Right.
Once you know that, you can fight them all.
Yeah, we you know, don't get me wrong. There's always gonna be people that's gonna be able to stand completely isolated on their own. But the principles that we breathe out, they're gonna be practicing them. And they're just able to do it on their own. And this sister clearly, you know, she's able to take the energy and time and go and get the things necessary to present these things the right way. And so it wouldn't be no problem for us. Like we the Moore Science Temple of America, and in our paperwork is telling us that the empire is with us, the empire of the Moore Science Temple of America. And what an empire is many nations. It's many nations that make up an empire. So each nation has a bunch of different tribes in it, a bunch of different people with the same thing going on inside that nation. But then the nation, when a bunch of nations get together under one banner, it becomes a empire. So the Moore Science Temple of America is an empire, right? And it has different nations in it. So when you see something like the Choctaw, the Hittites, you see the Cherokee, you see all these different nations, they band together into the Moore Science Temple of America, like what she's saying, and it helps strengthen all of them as one. So where did you think the concept came from? From the United States of America. They didn't think that up. Why in Europe got that? All them little bitty countries. Why in Europe got all these things? Because they didn't practice that. They didn't learn about that. When they got over here, they seen what it was. They seen all of the tribes united together under the Moorish Empire. So that's how that occurred. So that's where that came from. So the United States is what that's all about. So they got different states, which were actually all countries. So Ohio was a country, Illinois was a country, Rhode Island, all of them were countries, and all of them acted independently. So they said, we're not going to be able to continue functioning like this because we're going to fight, and then if we get attacked by somebody big, we're going to be taken out. So we need to make a decision now. So the decision was made to group together, but nobody would trust the other person. So if I'm Ohio, and I say, okay, we're going to do it, I'm going to run it, putting it together. Indiana go, no. Michigan go, no. You can't run it. I'm going to run it. I can't run it. So they had to go source it out. So the source out became the United States, the corporation. So it brought to the table saying that they can do the job. So it brought the administrative skills and a Navy, Army, and Air Force.
No Air Force back then.
Well, they didn't have the Air Force. They ultimately came, but that's what they brought to the table. So they brought that because the whole thing was about defense and administratively, how was it going to work? So they came in with that deal. Until that time, the United States had not had any international experience. This gave them that catapult, that company that's called the United States. That's what gave them that catapult when they negotiated the treaty between the United States and the Moors. All right, so that's where that came from. So that's why you have what you have now, and all that's generating from who you are. So once you take your rightful place in things, then you claim the land that you own, but you can't claim it without honor. You can't be black claiming it. That's no honor. There's no way to have honor in that. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna ultimately, like you go so far down the road, if you read, it'll tell you in a lot of older cases that the defendant was in error. And you're like, what the heck is they talking about? But that's what they're talking about. The defendant was in error. It was black, they had no standing. So when you get down the road into constitutional things, they're gonna shut you down. So like I said, if you take a chance, just Google, a black man has no rights upon which a white man is bound to respect.
Dred Scott Tracy, or the Missouri Compromise.
Right.
That's why he lost that case, because he couldn't prove his nationality.
And there are so many other things. If you want to take a historical look, you can look at the Spanish Inquisition. You can look at all these things and look back to see. And there's different names that are used. So then, if you go to the etymology of that name, you'll find out that all of these things reference names that go back to the beginning. And I mean, we learned bits and pieces in schools, but they didn't give a full picture in school. And the problem is that now today, the school books are even smaller, and a lot of times they don't even have school books. And if they do, it's bigger and there's less in it.
That's why I want to say something before we end this. 1979, you became what? Through Jesse Jackson and a couple of his friends.
African American.
Exactly. Prior to that, what were you called? 1950, 60, 70?
Colored.
Exactly. Prior to that, what were you called?
Negro.
Okay. Other than that, what were you called? Yeah, yes. Negro and Indian. Now, my question to you is, why does your name keep changing?
So
I can put a German Shepherd on the moon, and we can take I can put a German Shepherd on the moon right now, come back here, and take y'all back 15 years later, and y'all see that German Shepherd. Somebody's like, look at that dog. What is that? Oh, that's a German Shepherd. He hasn't changed. But 1774, Carpenter Hall, right? Or Carter Hall?
Carpenter Hall.
Carpenter Hall. They set out to take the earth land from under you by changing your nationality, who you are, who your forefathers were. Them calling you black, Negro, or colored immediately takes you off to the land. It's a fictional character.
Islam, I just want to say that this is not something to get angry about, although it can be something to be angry about. This is to think about what part we play in this and how we correct who we are. Islam. One last thing, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
This is the real last thing.
This is the real last thing. I'm challenging people, and this is my challenge, because I've heard a whole lot of impeach the president stuff. I challenge you to pay attention to what's really going on. Never in my lifetime have I seen religion take such a forefront. We need to think about those things. We also need to think about what's going on that we're not paying attention to when we're paying attention to the distractions. So I challenge you this week, for every time you hear something, look for something else and see what's really going on behind the scenes. Islam, peace and love.
Peace and love. Oh, look up the word Silvertor Mortuus. That's what I wanted to say earlier. Silvertor Mortuus.
You guys that just came in, y'all have any particular questions? You guys just came in. Okay, well, yeah, we're going to see you guys again.
I do.
Okay.
Is there like more classes besides Sunday? Like different classes you guys do?
There's a Tuesday class that's at 7:30 in the evening. There's a Friday class, which is at 4:30 on Friday.
Yep.
So, and in this class, which is, at 2.
Oh, I have an announcement. I'm sorry, I forgot. We are having a Moorish costume.
Oh, yes, we have a costume.
We're having a Moorish
Who
costume.
like to dress up? Who like to dress up? Who don't like to dress up?
No glitter, please. But the date is January 6th. There will be more information coming out about it. And we really want RSVPs. I have this other little thing that I'm doing that even the grand governor doesn't know. But January 6th.
I got a problem. I got anxiety was carried over.
It's gonna be good. January 6th. The tickets are $10. There will be refreshments provided, and we're gonna have a good time. So Islam, peace and love, everybody.
So if anybody got any questions or anything, we'll be right here. Oh, we're gonna be going to eat. Leave here, so anybody free to eat, that's fine. There we go.
That was snacks.
Yeah, them is snacks. So come, yeah, eat all this stuff up.
Y'all need to know that some Sundays I wake up and be like, oh,
This is what we're gonna eat. But we going out to eat again.
Thank you.